last year at Next 2018, we've been here introducing Cloud Services Platform, now with its new name, Anthos. Anthos is a true hybrid and multi-cloud platform that lets you write once and deploy anywhere. In the 8 months between then and now, we've been quite busy, and we're excited to show you some really awesome technologies as we move this platform to GA. But for me, what was the most exciting thing was talking with our customers, the people we've met in this journey. Over 1,000 companies expressed interest in signing to CSP Anthos when we announced. We saw incredible interest from banks, financial services, retail, and public sector. We're going to introduce you today to some of the customers that partnered with us in bringing Anthos to GA. They will share their stories, how they're leading change in their industries, and how this technology is unlocking business success.
Unlocking business success. What do we mean by that? You know, as Hen and I were building this platform in the early days, we were asking ourselves the question, what separates the leaders from the rest when it comes to IT? And we were hearing from CIOs over and over again that speed, reliability, and access to information is critical to their business. It's what allows them to win and to turn around their sales. When we look at leading companies like Target and eBay in the space of IT, we're amazed by what they are doing. If you think about it, they need to be able to predict what you want to buy even before you know what you want to buy. They need to be able to stock it in a location near you. And they need to be able to get it to you as faster than anybody else. What does that require from IT? Well, that means they need systems all the way from their mobile app to their back office inventory system to their point of sale systems to be fast, to be secure, and to be intelligent. Is this only true in retail? You know, for those of you that work in enterprises, you know this is not just true in retail. This type of IT agility is expected in every industry, in your enterprise. And yet, there are so many enterprises that are not able to make this leap. And we think there are good reasons for that. Actually, 3 big reasons that we want to highlight. Number 1, risk. Every enterprise needs to minimize risk. Maybe your company is doing that by restricting the services and the data that you can put in the cloud. Or maybe they're restricting even which cloud you can use. Users of GKE, BigQuery, and Google's Cloud ML services, they tell us the speed at which they're able to move by using these services is phenomenal. But we know that there are many users out there who don't have access to these services because they have to wait for long periods for their central IT to approve the services. And that's because the IT is trying to reduce risk. But actually, the irony of it is they're increasing the risk of being left behind. So risk is one. The other challenge enterprise has is how do you innovate with what you have? We all know there's lots of existing and some legacy systems in the enterprise. So maybe your need for speed is being stalled by that monolith that just doesn't scale. But does it have to be that way? Can we innovate with monoliths? That's the question we were asking ourselves. And then lastly, and I think this is top of mind for all of us, especially all of you, is talent. Who's going to write those modern applications? Who's going to transform IT? It's really hard to hire and retain top technical talent. And it's even harder if you are in an industry that's a non-technical industry. You know, we started CSP because we knew these challenges are actually imminently solvable. And we had already solved them to an extent with Kubernetes. But what we hadn't done is solve them for you on-prem and across clouds. And we really hadn't solved them for your monoliths.
So what's the solution? Let me give you a hint. It's about putting the user first. We hear our customers tell us they want everything baked into the platform: agility, security, and reliability. Anthos is a Google opinionated solution managed solution, building upon open source technologies like Kubernetes, Istio, and Knative. This provides the benefits of workload portability, ensuring no locking into a specific environment. Starting from the bottom, we shipped an on-prem distribution, bringing our years of experience managing Kubernetes clusters to you. On top of that, we have built a multi-cluster, multi-cloud control plane, hosted on GCP, that allows you to connect and manage all of your environments, including non-GKE cluster, from in a single pane of glass. You can also apply the same policies and controls from a centralized place. But what about workloads which are not containerized? For that, we've added our service management layer that is compute agnostic, and that lets you connect all of your services, both monolithic services as well as greenfield services. And on top of everything, we have an awesome marketplace introducing Google's first-party and third-party applications ready to be deployed wherever the platform is. Anthos removes risk and gives you choice. None of these things are like what are out there today. Why? Because most tools are not built with user choice in mind. Most cloud providers are not building to maximize your innovation. In fact, they may increase your risk and slow you down by fragmenting your talent and locking you in. Anthos gives you choice. Let's start with the first challenge, managing risk. Risk management is already the #1 concern that keeps CIOs awake at night. Being unprepared can have a large impact on your business. Change, new technologies, new environments increases your risk. Let me tell you about a conversation I just had yesterday. Changed the script last night. I was talking with a group of leaders and told them what we keep hearing from our customers. When you want to use a new service, let's say BigQuery, before you can let your developers use it, you have to approve it. Make sure it meets the bar. But there are hundreds of services, so you cannot do it manually. So you build tools and processes to reduce the toil. Unfortunately, this is not a one-thing effort. It's an ongoing effort that has to continue and run as the platform, the services, and the requirements keep changing. Then a person jumps in, and he says, this is why we're going to start with one cloud, and we're going to streamline the process and governance. Immediately, another person engaged, and she says, by excluding other clouds, you'll be blocking your own innovation, and this may be a bigger risk to your business. Now, the amount of work just got multiplied by the amount of environments you want to run your workloads. This is just one example how mitigating risk can increase your workload and slow you down. It means you're not spending time innovating. Anthos solved that. In Anthos, we are introducing Cloud Run to provide automated developer experience that takes you direct from code to an internet-facing app in minutes without any platform expertise. Our large customers like HSBC and Scotiabank have tens of thousands of developers. They don't need to be platform expertise. They want to make sure that they can focus on the application surface and innovate where it impacts their business. But you need a platform that keeps you safe and removes risk of malicious actors and fat fingers. This is hard, especially across clouds. Anthos is integrated with your existing identity stores. It has built-in security for zero-trust environment. It provides a granular access control with policies and enforcement across clouds. We keep your platform up to date with all the security features that are needed to make your environment safe. And the most important thing, we do it wherever you need to run your workloads. Now let's see a demo. First demo of the day.
Woohoo!
Okay, so here I have a GKE highly available regional cluster. It's really easy to create a cluster from the UI. I will just choose the template I need of highly available. And here I will also configure Anthos components into this cluster, starting with Istio, Stackdriver for monitoring, and of course the developer experience, Cloud Run. We'll use a pre-deployed cluster, and you can see if I go to the workloads, I can see that already I have some components installed within my cluster, but those are also open source components, like Knative in Istio, which means that whatever is running here can be running in every Kubernetes cluster. But in this case, GKE actually manages those solutions for you, and when your cluster will be upgraded, those components will also be upgraded with them. But as a developer, I don't care about any of that. All I want to do is see my application running. So I can go to Cloud Run, and I can simply create a new service. Let's put the image. Sorry. And as easy as that, I can simply choose my GKE cluster. And voila, that's it. Under the hood, what is happening is that Cloud Run is already creating a controller that, for example, scales to 0 my deployment. It also connects to other GCP capabilities. And it is working. As a developer, I'm done. But now, as a service operator, I want to make sure I can manage all of my workloads the same way. So regardless if this is an internet-facing application or maybe a stateful workload like Redis, I can see all of them running here. Let's see our... So what we can see here are two of my applications running. And what's also interesting to see, that in the pods, one of them have 0 pods because there's no traffic into that service, and the other one does. So this is really great, and I'm very happy. I'm happy with the reliability and availability that GKE provides. But I also have some of my own unique policies that I want to build within my environment. For that, we also installed Anthos config management into this cluster. Let's see what kind of namespaces exist here. Sorry. Okay. This policy is managed by central IT or by cloud teams and is the single source of truth managed in GitHub. You can see I have multiple namespaces here, like orders dev, orders prod, that exist in my cluster. But let's say I'm not a malicious actor, but I do have fat fingers, and accidentally I delete one of them. Of course, let's make it really bad, so we'll do it for prod. OK, it's deleted. But actually, it's already here. So automatically, the system found out that I've deleted this namespace and created 3 seconds ago a new namespace for me.
That was awesome. So back to the slides. That's removing risk so you can move fast. What Hen showed is the developer workflow, which is super fast, in seconds, going from source code to an application that's live on the internet. And then the other piece is you can enable that agility while controlling from a central place through your admins all of the security and compliance policies that you want to enforce. And this is across clouds. OK, so risk number 2 was innovating with what you have. Well, not all of your applications are going to be written by developers. The truth is that when you're a startup, yes, you can afford to write everything from scratch. But as an enterprise, this is not at all the case. Most of the applications in an enterprise are packaged applications. And you might not even have access to the source code. So what do you do then? How do you innovate with what you have? Well, rewriting is really long, and it's very hard, and it's quite risky. So is it possible for enterprises to innovate at all? You know, on GCP, we've found that actually it's the long-standing enterprises that have the most potential to innovate because they have the greatest data assets, they have the customer relationships, and they have existing systems that are working. What they need to do, though, is to build on what they have and innovate on top of it. And in fact, with some of the technologies that we will show you, it's possible to actually out-innovate most startups. And not only that, as a large enterprise, you can change the game for how your industry works. Before we do the demo, though, I want to introduce you to someone who's actually doing that at a large enterprise. And so I'd like to invite our first guest speaker to the stage. Please welcome Dinesh Keswani. He is the CTO of HSBC. Hi, Dinesh.
Hello, everyone.
Thanks for joining us. So Dinesh and I have known each other now almost 2 years, and at least...
It's just been 11 months.
Has it only been 11 months? Okay. Well, he has been, it feels like longer because we've been very close working together, and he has been a guiding light for the development of Anthos from its very start. So I'd like to ask Dinesh to tell us a little bit about HSBC, your background, and what excites you about the change that you are leading.
Sure. Thank you, Aparna and Hen. I have to keep up with the Greek names here. Anthos, another one to remember. So HSBC is a very unique, diverse, very global organization. I joined HSBC about 11 months ago. As way of introduction, besides the numbers on the slide here, we're a bank that has banked many generations of customers and organizations. We're 150 years old. We have 39 million customers. We do about $1.5 trillion in payments a day. That's a lot of zeros. And we manage about $2.5 trillion worth of assets. It's a very unique organization. It gave me an opportunity to move from California to the UK about 11 months ago. And then 2 weeks after I started, the first meeting I had with Google was with you.
Mm-hmm. It seems like a really long time ago.
It does seem like that, yep.
So what's the mission of the bank and of your group?
We have a very interesting vision. The bank, we want to be able to transform the world's banking experience as a whole. And I'm not talking about HSBC. We're talking about the world's banking experience. HSBC is committed to invest about $17 billion in technology investments over the next 3 years. And they have, as techies, we love solving big, hairy, audacious problems, right? You've heard that over the last 20 years. And HSBC in that phase of change right now attracted me a lot. And we're leading with the cloud.
Wow, transforming the banking experience for all.
For everyone.
That is super inspiring, and I keep it top of mind as we're doing our development. But I want to ask you this question for our audience. Enterprise IT, as we understand it, is pretty complex. And I was talking about existing apps versus new apps. Yeah. How do you think about the trade-off? Do you build everything new? What do you do with what you have?
No, absolutely not. We're committed to being, from day one, a hybrid company. The reason being, we have, in broadly classifying these applications, we have 4 generations of applications. Some of you haven't heard of these. Mainframes, I-series, Z-series, and then client-server tech, web applications, and then mobile-first cloud applications. So when we look across the estate, a lot of our core data, we consider data as an asset, is locked up in mainframes and client-server applications. And maybe for regulatory reasons, maybe for reasons where Google doesn't have data centers, we sometimes have to keep the data in our data centers. And the strategy we're taking is to unlock the data, democratize the data, make them available as services for consumption. And that's where hybrid becomes really important for us. It is absolutely a priority for us. Go hybrid.
Services to access untapped on-prem data.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more. Why did you choose GKE and Anthos for this project?
So we have 3 priorities at the bank. First, we're a bank. So we have to protect our customers' data. Security of absolute importance. We can't compromise that. So I keep referring this to my team. So when we have to make hard decisions, we always choose customer privacy, customer data, security first. And 2, improving engineering and developer productivity. The less I focus on solving customer issues, and the more I spend time on infrastructure and issues that don't matter to the customer, the less productive I am. So improving developer productivity, and we have 40,000 engineers, and we're hiring 5,000 more guys. So if you're interested, um, you know, big problems to have, but just the core focus is improving engineering productivity. And then 3 is how do we constantly innovate within the boundaries that we've set. So having the flexibility to develop in one place and deploy in many is absolutely a game changer for us in terms of productivity. This might sound academic, but I'm a big believer in value stream mapping, something that Toyota started early on, and we did some of that exercise early on in saying what are the activities our engineers perform that actually add value to the customer's outcome. And we found that most of it is related to us building the right set of code to impact devs. So that infrastructure automation, the SRE work needs to be centralized and hopefully given out to Google so we can focus on serving our customers best. So GK was spot on. We became early design partners. We're glad about that. I can go on and on.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. So everything as a service, I find that vision extremely compelling. Really changing how banking works altogether. Anything else that you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah, the last 11 months or 2 years, as you put it, have been very revealing for me. So I was a Silicon Valley guy, moved to the UK. What I did realize is the single biggest factor that makes a difference is the people that you work with, the productivity and the impact you can have with them. So focus on developer productivity if you're managing a team. Get their obstacles. Everybody faces obstacles. Get them out of the way. And then setting up communities, right, around the big problems you have. So we've set up communities around data, security, containerization. Some of it is hybrid. How do we get our data centers ready for the hybrid mode? So we have teams of devs that focus on this as a community. They have a purpose. That's very enlightening. And then finally, this is debatable, but I believe in innovating with what we have, setting boundaries, setting goals, and saying, go innovate. It's very hey, you have limitless resources, go innovate. But I think, necessity is the mother of invention. So when you put constraints around a problem set, and then you try to focus on the customer outcome, you innovate faster. Right.
Thank you, Dinesh.
Great. Thank you so much, Aparna.
Thank you.
Congrats on the
Thank you,
launch.
Dinesh.
All right.
I love that. Necessity is the mother of invention. We are so inspired by HSBC and our design partners that we're wearing the HSBC colors, in fact. So our platform is really built for leaders like Dinesh. It allows you to innovate with what you have without, creating a lot of friction with your existing environment. And how does it do that? It's really 3 simple things. First of all, GK on-prem. It fits right in. It blends into your existing environment and runs on vSphere and really brings the cloud to you where you are. Number 2, managing everything as a service, as Dinesh said. That's made possible by our service mesh, which is available in the cloud, and also as open source Istio on-prem. And then lastly, we have the new capability called Anthos Migrate that automatically moves your applications from virtual machines on-prem or in other clouds to GKE. So these 3 modes can actually be used together or they can be used individually. And there are customers that are using them in all different forms. These are 3 examples. Kohl's is using GKE on-prem to blend their on-prem environment with their cloud environment, functioning as hybrid, much like HSBC. AutoTrader are running everything as a service and managing it in a service mesh. And Cardinal Health is migrating automatically from VMs to GKE. And this last one, of course, is rather unique. And so I'd like to give you a demo of this last piece, which is Anthos Migrate. Actually, if we go back to the slide for a second, Anthos Migrate, it's a brand new capability. It's possibly a first of its kind in the industry, especially for the speed and simplicity of what we do here. And so moving to the demo, I'm going to switch over and try to show you what I would call an on-prem system. Many of you might be familiar with this. Here I have vSphere. And vSphere is running in a typical data center environment. And it is running a typical packaged application. This is not an application for which I have the source code. In this case, it's a CRM system. It happens to be Sugar CRM, and it has 2 VMs. So there's a database, which is a MySQL database, that is running in a VM that's running CentOS, as you can see. And then there's the front end of the application, which is running in a separate VM. And the operating system on that VM happens to be SUSE Linux. Okay, so this is quite common. And the application is actually exposed at 192.168.11.160, and we can go there, have that open, and I'll refresh and just to see that it is actually a live application that is running on-prem. Okay, so this is pretty common, and you probably have a set of VM administrators and OS administrators that are patching it, and then you have a separate admin that is taking care of the application. And while this is expensive, it's actually pretty stable. And so if it's not broken, why fix it? So what if I told you that we have a streamlined way of taking this application and moving it to GKE, moving it into containers, so that you don't have to have the separate OS and VM dependency and maintenance? Well, that would be kind of a game changer. So what I'm going to do is demo that. We have actually built a vSphere plugin that's running here that's going to show you over here all of the changes that'll take place. So we'll look at recent tasks to see what's happening. And this plugin is also connecting to our cloud over a WAN-optimized connection, so that all I need to do is to go to GKE, and from there I can initiate this migration. So let me do that. I'm going to go to my cluster. This is a cluster running in Europe. And I'm going to go ahead and, using our handy-dandy Cloud Shell, start a command line environment and establish a connection to that cluster. This is just standard. So now I'm connected to that cluster, and in that cluster, I'm going to begin this migration. So that's as simple as kubectl apply from this file, which is a migrate YAML file. And what this file is going to do is it's going to initiate a shutdown of the VMs on-prem. It's going to gracefully shut those down, take a snapshot, and then move that VM to this cluster over here. And so let's go back to the cluster for a second and minimize this. If I look at workloads, you'll start to see that there are 2 new pods that are starting. These are actually stateful pods that are going to house the application as it migrates over. And that's going to take a little bit of time. So let's go back and actually see what's happening in the vSphere screen. I told you that we could monitor what's going on here. And so you see here, hopefully you can see it still even from the back, we have initiated guest OS shutdown, and we're reconfiguring these virtual machines, and you can see that each of these VMs is now powered off, okay? And it is being migrated over to the cloud. So as this migration happens, and it takes about 3 minutes, which is exceedingly fast, you might ask, why would I want to do this, right? I had an application that was running okay. Well, there's a few benefits of doing this. Number one, it frees you from the VM and operating systems management. All of that is actually done automatically in GKE. So the security that comes along with patching the OS under the covers, the movement of the container itself, the portability that you get. Secondly, GKE bin packs the application, and you know that, right? It is a container, and there could be other containers running in the same environment, and it'll essentially increase your utilization by bin packing that application. And that reduces your cost, increases your resource effectiveness. And then thirdly, and this is perhaps the most important piece, is that it brings that legacy monolith into a DevOps environment, and automatically, for example, installs Istio service management. So you can view that service as a service, see the traffic that's coming to that service, and set up policies, security policies, as well as control that traffic. So these are some of the benefits of doing this migration. It does look like we're doing well. So let's see. We're going to go back and see what's happening here, whether some of these pods have begun. Well, they're still pending. So we'll wait a little bit more. We want to make sure that we do this live. I think one of the biggest biggest impacts that this technology has is that you didn't have to change anything in the monolith. You didn't have to break the monolith. You didn't have to rewrite or even adjust the application. And the system is essentially pulling the application bits out, extracting them from the underlying OS, bringing the relevant dependencies, and putting them inside a system container in GKE, and then booting from there, and running the application as it was with the storage and the database. Okay, it looks like the database is actually up, and the application is still pending. Okay, we'll take maybe a little bit more time. And let's see if we actually have a change. So these two pods are here, and then when you look at the services, we've actually exposed this application now externally on this IP address, 10.10.2.197, and we're going to cross our fingers and see if it does come up. So I have this IP address. It's not yet available. Okay. At the same time, the application I can show you is not running on-prem any longer. So this should stop working, and it has. We're going to hope that this comes up soon. All right. Well, we might have to proceed with the rest of the talk and come back and see when these pods start running. So we're just still waiting for the last pod. But we're going to go back to the talk, and we'll come back at the end and see the migration complete. So back to you, Hen.
Thank you very much, Aparna. What I love about Anthos Migrate, that people always tell me, so how do I start with Anthos? How do we onboard to it? And this is, to me, the best and easiest ways to onboard to Anthos in an automated way. Now let's talk about the third problem that we talked about, talent. So I was happy to hear, right? So Dinesh was talking about innovating with what you have, but he spent time talking about the people and building communities. And we've been talking about technology and business constraints and requirements, but what all our customers tell us that any digital transformation starts with the people. As a leader, my goal is to make sure that my team is set up for success. And for me, it means many things. First of all, it means that I want to make sure that they can focus on where they can have the most impact. Secondly, I want to make sure that they have the best tools for doing the job. And last but not least, I want to make sure they have the peers they want to work with and they can learn from. I really want to give them the best. But the reality is that in an enterprise, you have tremendous fragmentation and complexity, already causing your talent to be fragmented and spreading too thin, leaving no time to learn new technologies and build new capabilities. Clouds can add additional strain. I'm super excited to invite Hisham Fahmy, VP of Technology at Loblaw Digital, the biggest grocer in Canada. He will share with us how he puts his team first and how the technology and Anthos impact his team. Thank you.
Thank you, Hen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hen. I'm really excited to be here today. Good morning, everyone. I have to admit, I was kept completely in the dark about the announcement of Anthos today. But I was really happy to see that what we were working on for the past 12 months was really coming to life and being fully GA and supported. And my Slack messenger has been going like wildfire with my team reaching out with a lot of comments about, we really bet on the right horse here. So this is great. So let me start by sharing a little bit of Loblaw's story. Loblaw is Canada's largest retailer, and our purpose is to help Canadians live life well. We're actually turning 100 years old this year, and throughout this journey, we have become a trusted partner for all Canadians. We operate 17 different grocery banners, a very large pharmacy chain, and a major apparel brand. And our 2,400 locations are within 10 minutes of 75% of Canadians. So when you think about the landmass of Canada, that's pretty huge. And PC Optimum is Canada's largest loyalty program with 18 million members. And so that equates to about 2/3 of the adult Canadian population. We also run Canada's largest online grocery platform. But, Canadians are demanding more and more from us. And what we've realized as a company is that we need to transform from becoming a traditional retailer to becoming a technology-first company. And it's our mission at Loblaw Digital to make this happen. So we all know that to become a technology leader, you really need to build a very strong engineering team. Your talent becomes your most valuable asset. And this is easier said than done. And at Loblaw, we had three main challenges. The first one was, how do we attract the best engineering talent that's out there? And then how do we make sure that this talent is actually focused on delivering and adding customer value? And then lastly, how do we retain this talent by making sure that they're always engaged and feeling challenged? By moving our platforms over to GCP, they've really helped a lot with all three of these. So when we talk about attracting talent, let's face it, a 100-year-old grocer is not the first place that engineers are going for looking for opportunities. But engineers are looking for places that allow them to experiment with the latest and greatest technology, grow their skills, and have impact at a very large scale. Now, we were lucky at Loblaw that we could actually definitely offer that very large scale with our reach of millions of customers. But we actually needed that platform that can offer our engineers the latest tools and speed and scale. And so GCP has actually given us that tool set. And then CSP, or now Anthos, has really allowed us to kind of deploy at massive scale very fast. And as a result of all of this, Loblaw Digital has now become a hot destination for some of the best engineering talent in Toronto. And we're actually very proud of this. So now the risk or the problem comes that this talent now can get easily wasted if they aren't laser focused on creating delightful customer experiences. Any time that we waste on managing deployments and infrastructure is really a waste of time that's adding no value to our business. So with GKE, we were really able to abstract out the deployment of our applications and simplify our monitoring and running of our infrastructure. And this has freed up countless hours of our teams to innovate. So an example, like our data science team now, they're able to run a lot of train some complex machine learning models without needing to worry about managing the underlying compute infrastructure needed to do that. Our online grocery development team now has been able to transform our platform into a secure set of microservices that are running on top of GKE and an Istio service mesh. And then lastly, when we talk about retaining talent, we all know that engineers take a lot of deep pride in their problem-solving skills. And any constraints that you put on them in terms of what tech they can use is really frustrating. But then the problem becomes in very large enterprises like ours, you end up having some very rigid enterprise architectures, and these create these frustrating constraints for those engineers. But those architectures are driven out of the need of the enterprise to be able to secure and operate the complex web of systems that you have in your enterprise. And it becomes really impossible in that kind of environment to have a true polyglot system. But now, with CSP or Anthos, we've been able to have the container as the atomic unit of deployment and packaging. And it's become really easy to manage and secure these. And so, at Loblaw now, we're actually able to package an application once and run it everywhere and run it anywhere. And we no longer have to deal with all the pain of the inconsistencies between all our test environments. It also now has allowed our developers to essentially put whatever they want inside the container. And that has unlocked a lot of opportunities for us. Another example we have now, we've got some development teams that are actually working on building some services in languages like Elixir. And that would have never been possible about 12 months ago. So in closing, I do want to say that if any of you know of any great engineers out there that want to work on the latest and greatest tools and want to make a huge impact, please send them my way because we're hiring like crazy still in Toronto. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Hesham.
Thank you. Perfect.
Okay, so the demo is actually complete, if we can.
In a second, yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Hisham, for sharing your experience. When thinking about talent, our focus is not about portability of workloads, but portability of skills, and making sure that developers can be productive regardless of the environment they want to work on, and they can have the freedom of choice which service they want to use. And central IT or cloud teams can support that choice because they have tools to manage those environments wherever they need to. Now let's see this freedom of choice in action.
Okay, over to the demo screen, please. And first I'm going to show you that the migration finished. It actually finished just a minute after we switched over. And so I haven't done anything here, but if I refresh, you can see that, in fact, both stateful sets are up. The app is up, the database is up. And so now let's go back to vSphere and see if this thing is working. So we're going to refresh it. It's where we left it. And we're going to go ahead and proceed to the unsafe connection and see if our application is up. And yes, Sugar CRM is up. I'm going to log in. I'm going to log in. And I want you to see the same console that we were seeing before. So let's log in. Yeah. And there's my dashboard. And now it's running
Nice.
in the cloud.
Very nice.
And we did that migration live, zero code changes from on-prem vSphere to in the cloud into a container ecosystem. That's pretty impressive. All right. Okay. So the next demo that we want to, so this is the one that's not, this is the on-prem one that isn't running, and this is the one that's in the cloud that is running. So let's move over. We talked about your existing applications, monoliths, and taking care of those. We talked about writing greenfield applications, whether you're writing them in the cloud or you're writing them on-prem. That covers a lot of things. So what haven't we covered? Well, let's see. When we say freedom of choice, we really mean it. And we mean that you can run your services wherever is best for you. With Anthos, you can connect your clusters, whether they're running in GCP or they're running in other clouds. And you could develop once, and you can deploy anywhere. You heard that in the keynote today, and we're going to show you how that works here. So I'm going to move over to another GKE cluster. And what I have here is I've already registered a number of different clusters. And you can register new clusters just by using this register cluster flow. And you can register clusters whether they're running in GCP, they're running in Azure, or they're running on AWS. And so I've already registered a cluster that's running in GCE, another one that's running using KOps in AWS, and of course I've got my handy-dandy trusted GKE cluster. And what I get here is a workload view that's consistent, that shows me all of the workloads that are running on all of the different clusters. So here you see all of the workloads that are running on my AWS cluster alongside my GCE cluster. So this is nice, one place to visualize all your applications. And the other thing you can do, and I've done one here already and one I'm going to do live, is you can deploy applications to any of these clusters. So if you think about a multi-cloud workflow, you can develop and then deploy your applications to any cloud that makes sense for you. And so here I had pre-installed WordPress, and just to show you that this is not demo magic, this is live. Here I have my AWS cluster, and I can see what services are exposed. And so I'll click on this load balancer, and here you see that, yeah, WordPress is actually running, and here we are, we're looking at it, it's running on AWS. And now let's do another live deployment. We have our Kubernetes marketplace, which is also moved to GA as of today. And so there you can go shopping. There's lots of applications, CloudBees and Aqua Security, Cassandra, any kind of application that you can think of that you'd like to deploy to your Kubernetes clusters, again, across clouds. Let's go ahead and deploy one. So we're going to do Prometheus. Did I spell that right? Prometheus. OK, Prometheus in Grafana. We're going to search for it, and we've got Prometheus. And I'm going to go ahead and configure it. So this is something that's available as a pre-packaged application, and this is something that's supported through our partners as well as through Google Cloud. And with a drop-down, you can choose which cluster you want to deploy it to. And so you might have a workflow that says, hey, I want a test application in GCP, and then I want a production application in AWS, or I want a production application on-prem, and then go ahead and deploy it there. So we're going to deploy it in the marketplace namespace in this case, and hit deploy. And this is going to take not that long, actually much less time than the previous demo, and we'll see live that Prometheus deploys into your AWS cluster. All right, almost done. Looks like it's done. That's fantastic. And so now I can go to my Applications tab, and I see, in addition to WordPress, I'm running Prometheus on KOps on AWS, and again, all of the same management capabilities that I saw with my GKE cluster are available to these workloads in AWS. So there you have it. Build once, deploy anywhere.
Thank you. Thank you, Aparna. And every environment is in your reach with a consistent experience. Google Cloud is the only cloud provider that gives you choice. Here on stage, we heard from both Dinesh and Hisham how important choice is for them, how much they want to have the choice where to innovate. They want to have a choice what to modernize and what they can leave as it is. They know that they can take advantage of choice if it increases their risk. Now, they can mitigate security risk, talent fragmentation, and lock-in. This is exactly what's different about Anthos. It removes risk while giving you choice. Talent likes choice. IT likes choice. Leader likes choice. Business success requires choice.
So now we've done it. 3 live demos demonstrating all the capabilities of Anthos to you. If you want to learn more, there's a lot of deep dives. There's over 50 talks on this topic, but these are the ones that I would recommend. To learn more about GK on-prem and how to manage Kubernetes in your data center, there's a couple of talks going on later today, directly after this one. And then also connecting your clusters across multiple clouds. Highly recommend those 2 talks, one today and one tomorrow. Service management, the easy way. And then we will be available for open Q&A both today, later today, as well as tomorrow morning. And then lastly, of course, the developer experience that we showed with serverless that you can use with security, a number of different talks on that. So thanks again. Thanks to our speakers.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the conference.